Okay, we're beginning of Perek Afalpi. We discussed in the previous parak the Tanoim of the Ksuba. In this parak, we're discussing the Tosefes Ksuba that the husband adds on to his wife. 613a.
No, I know.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm on the air. Anyway, so just don't disregard the man behind the curtain. No, we're discussing Tosefes Ksuba, the addition to the Ksuba, and we had a machlokes when after you get married. There's two stages. We know there's Erusin and Nesuin. Certainly, after Nesuin, you would collect what not only the Ksuba but also the Tosefes Ksuba. We had machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. What happens if the death of the husband or divorce takes place before Nesuin, after the first stage, which is Erusin? The Tanakama said they still would collect the whole Ksuba, including Tosefes. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said just the Ksuba, but not the Tosefes. And that was totally an umdina. They both held of umdina. They both held the concept of evaluating what a person's kavanah was. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah held the kavanah was, I'm not giving you the thing unless we live together, right? And according to the Tanakama, no, you do go after umdina. The umdina was that, you agreed to be my wife, so we don't even have to get to the stage of Nesuin. So we're going to pick it up now in the Shita of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. We're going to pick it up in the Shita of Elazar ben Azariah. Exactly, do you need Nesuin with a bia? What happens if you have Nesuin without a bia? Let's say he dies after the chuppah. What would it be over there? Or Pirsanida. In other words, is it the act of bia or is it the act of chuppah that would go ahead and finalize getting the Tosefes of the Ksuba? Very logical progression. Says the Gemara on Nun Vav Amid Aleph. We are about a little above where it gets wide, about 6-7 lines up. But right, Boy Ravin, the following shaila. Nichlasa lechuppah, v'loy nivola. So you had a chuppah, so now there's nesuin has been accomplished. However, loy nivola, mahu chibas chuppah koina is the chiba of the chuppah koina, the Tosefes of the Ksuba, by chibas bia koina. What's the chibas of the bia? And therefore, if the man would die before the bia, then she would not collect the Tosefes. Tashma, let's be paisha the shaila. The Tani Rabbi Yosef learned the following din. Shaloi kosav lo ela al chibas laila harishon. He wrote the Tosefes. The lashon is for the endearment of the first night. Now, Shaloi kosav lo. No. He didn't write a Tosefes ela on this is smach. This is not written in the Ksuba. Kosav lo Tosefes on this smach. In other words, this is the umdina. This is the what smach. That and what was the smach of? It's the lashon of chibas laila rishon. It doesn't read in the Ksuba, but then that's the umdina ben. Amit bishlema chibas chuppah koina hainu damri laila rishon. Because again, chuppah takes place only once. El amit chibas bia koina bia b'laila rishon isya mikan ve'elach lesa. Is bia only give me the first night, not any other night afterwards? So obviously, we want to be paisha the shaila that if you nichnas the chuppah, that will be enough to go ahead and be makna the Tosefes of the Ksuba. Says the Gemara, the elamai chuppah b'laila isya b'ivama lesa laila rishon. What's your idea, guys? That must take place the first night. Good. First night would be chuppah, but why are you limited to night? Person can't get married during the day. You can have a chuppah during the day, right? You can have a chuppah during the day. Omar says the Gemara, you're telling me that bia is only during, so Laila, in other words, Laila would be mashma bia at night, right? And not, in other words, the word Laila Rishon would be mashma chuppah, Laila would be mashma bia. So which way are you going? So now it's saying, so he's answering a question with a question. Bia b'Laila isya b'ibam alesya. Just like chuppah is not limited to night, so to bia to rishon, so to bia is not limited to night. Ha'amar Rava im hoya bebeis afal. If it's a dark house, mutta. It's mutta to have tashmish in a dark house. So l'chayra, you don't have any raya from the lashon of laila rishon. Says Gemara, no holei kasha. That's not a problem. Urcha aru kamash malon the bia b'laila. It's more norm that bia is by night, so therefore Therefore, it's more mistaba to say what? It's more mistaba to say it's bia. El chuppah kasha, right? It's a taka kasha because she says rishon. In other words, rishon. You say good laila, but still, what are you going to do with the rishon? You got to deal with that. It's mashma rishon is what? Is chuppah. Says the Gemara, chuppah kasha, chuppah namile kasha. Kim in the stam chuppah lebia kaima urachara. So it's also it's urach ara kamash malon the laila. That no I learned the kasha the wrong way. The kasha was that chuppah is not limited to night because the day also, right? That's the kasha. The kasha chuppah is during the day also. So why do you list night if you're going to say it's chuppah? I'm sorry. Why do you have to say that what? No, it's normal that what the chuppah of Laila is what leads to the bia. Okay, meaning basically, I don't think you can be pushed either way from here. Boy Ravashi, nichlis lechuppah pirsanida mahu. So now he didn't. The issue is pirsanida. So imtim tzalei mechibas chuppah koina chuppah dechazi lebia, aber chuppah dechazi lebia loy idil malay shna. In other words, if you're going to go according to the derech, guys, that chuppah is koina, in other words, chuppah alone would go ahead and allow be makna the toisefes. What about you have a chuppah, but it's a chuppah that doesn't lead to a bia because she was pirsanida? Why would it didn't be over there? And that Gemara says teku that we have to wait for Elio to come. Go ahead, Rod, and answer that question. Okay, so again.
Usually the chuppah will eventually come to a bia. I mean, even though you're not having it that night.
But your raya is from Laila Rishon. Your raya is from the word Rishon, right? Rishon is not going to be. It's not going to be that night. It's not going to be that night. No. It's kind of like this. We have a lashon, guys. We're trying to figure out something from a lashon. That's the question. But based upon the lashon, okay. So you're going to tell me Laila Rishon is mashma chuppah. Okay, great. I'll grant you that. So now in chuppah itself, right? Maybe the chuppah. The reason why chuppah is because he gives herself over. Mamash after the chuppah is going to be a bia. Ultimately, it's a chuppah is one step before the bia. In other words, I think here's the way you have to view it. This is the way I view the whole sugya. The umdana is that a guy is not going to give a girl money just for the sake to say your name is Mrs. So-and-so. It has to be lead to the bia. Now, to what step to the bia? In other words, even if you're going to say that it's the chuppah is kaina, it's only because it's so close to the bia. It's not like a distinction. Okay, chuppah great, kaina. It's only one step closer to the bia. So if that's the case, now if the chuppah is not one step closer to the bia because of nida, then you got a shaila. That's the way I would be masbid the Gemara. That's the way I would learn pshat in the Gemara. So that seems to be again interesting machlokes between Elazar ben Azariah and the Chachamim. We're dealing with the shita of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and we're ending it then. This is the conclusion of that segment of the Mishnah. The next part of the Mishnah was an interesting part, a machlokes between Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda. Let's just go back to the Mishnah. It's been more than 24 hours, so we might forget it. Okay. Anyway, it says the Mishnah, and then right in the middle of the Mishnah, Reb Yehuda Omer. Right in the middle of the Mishnah, Reb Yehuda Omer. In Ratzah, if a person wants to, he could write a shtar shel masayim. He kaiseves his kabalti mimach mana, and she can write I would mekabel a mana. And what do we say? Even though you didn't, right? Rashi says, guys, in the Mishnah. What does Rashi say? Afa pishalei kabla moicheles. She's moichel. The kaiseves b'lashon shoiver, and we write a lashon of a receipt. So she's moichel. Basically, what we're doing is we're working a workaround to the ksuba. A ksuba has to be for a pasula 200. 200. You can't go ahead and change from that. Is there a way to avert that? Yes, there is. You go ahead and you write, and according to Yehuda, she could write, I received 100, even though she didn't. And how does that work? It's not a ram, it's a mechila. Now, and for almana, 150. Now, Reb Meir says, let's be like Reb Meir. Reb Meir Omer, anyone who goes ahead and gives less than 200, that is mamish a bilas nus. In other words, he doesn't say ki'ilu bilas nus. He says it's a bilas nus. Reb Meir, guys, is the one who holds that you can't live with your wife without a ksuba. If you don't have a ksuba, as a matter of fact, my own parents was very, if I remember the story correctly, the ksuba, my mother noticed the next day wasn't good. something, I forgot the name was wrong or something, I don't know. And they didn't let them live together until they corrected the ksuba. They didn't let them live together until they corrected the ksuba. I would ask her, but I'm not sure if she remembers. It's been a few years. Yeah, a few years. Okay, so with that in mind, let's see what we have over here regarding that sugya. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Ratzak Kesuvos. Now, I know what you're saying. But I'm saying it's gotta be 200. Gotta be 200. He says cross it out.
No, I'm saying, you know the case where she says I'm Mochel?
No. She write again. Here's the protocol. She writes she was accepted 100. That's it, and it works. Mitaris Mechila. She didn't say she's Michael. She wasn't Michael Ksuba. In other words, you can't circumvent the Chacham and made a takana over here. Let's get into the sugya again. Okay, now to understand the sugya is a very, very, very a little hakdama. Let's say you owe a person $1,000. You can't pay $1,000 back. You pay him back $500. So what do? There's one or two things you can do. You can make the onus on the lova, on the borrower, or you can make the onus on the malva, the lender. Meaning, you could either write a shayver, a receipt. Now he has to go ahead, but the shtar remains 1,000, and he has a receipt that he paid up 5, and now the onus is on the loiva to watch that receipt. That's called koisvin shayver. Or no, you don't write a shayver, you rewrite the shtar. Now, when you rewrite the shtar, you could lose the shibudim from the time of the original shtar, the lien on the property that was predated over here to over here. But now at least the onus is on, so who is the onus on? To Milva to get a new shtar, or okay, so with that in mind, let's begin the sugya. Says the Gemara, these are like peripheral stuff. It's very interesting. This is why it's called Shas Katan. All of a sudden you're dealing with marriage, bia, this, and now all of a sudden you get into shtaris. This is all marriage, mishpat, all shtaris. Rabbi Yehuda Ratzak Kesuvos Psula. The son of Rabbi Yehuda, the Koisvin shayver. In other words, you're writing a shayver that what you received from this girl. This girl says she received $100 that you received from this girl $100. Mm-hmm. But Tanan, Misha Pora Mixas Chayvai, someone who pays off part of his slave. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Yachlif, you write a new shtar. Lashon Chil, you write a new shtar. Rabbi Yossi Omer Yechlo Shayver. So what do you see? Rabbi Yehuda is not allowed the writing of a shayver. So how can you let this girl write a shayver that what? You got 100. What? No, how many it's a separate shtar. How many right now is it's a separate shayver. A shayver that is $1,000, 500, 100, 200, 100. That's it's separate shtar. Amr of Yirmiyah. So what's the answer? Like Avi just said, it's within the ksuba. In the ksuba, it states that you received what? So in other words, you don't have the chesaron of what? Of watching the shayver. The problem with the shayver is the onus on you to watch it. Over here, you have to watch the shtar anyway. It's your ksuba, right? You're going to collect. So you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. In my ksuba, I got the shayver too. Yeah. Again, no problem. It's a ksuba is a document. You have the 200. I accepted 100. Adam signed to it. Kasher v'yashra. You could say it's where it's not written inside, and it's a separate document. And even there, Rabbi Yehuda is going to agree. So in other words, what's the chilik between Rabbi Yehuda by ksuba and Rabbi Yehuda by a regular shtachav? So bishlei mahasan by a shtachav, vaday pare, vaday you paid up. Dilma mirk is tavarta. Maybe you'll lose your shayver. Umapik le l'shtara, and the malva is going to produce the shtar. The other governor is nachrina, and it's going to go ahead what and collect the second time. That's what the concern is. Hacha by the ksuba vada yavla. Wait, there's nothing involved over here. It's mechila. Miltza be'almehi the armalei. She mamish just told him verta. Natre. If he watches it, he watches it. And he loy natre, then he's the one that what is going to. In other words, it's not written in the shtar. He's got a shayver saying that what she got 100. There's nothing to it. And if he loses it, he's not taking a loss at all, right? It's the onus is upon him. So therefore, what you have 2 ways to learn. So Abaye learned it's written in the shtar, and Abaye learned it's written in the shtar. Excuse me, Rabbi Yirmiyah said it's written in the shtar, and Abaye said, no, you don't have to worry. And it makes Svara. It's Svara, you don't have to worry. You didn't get anything. So now, Bishlem Abaye Lemak Rav Yirmiyah, like Tani Shayva Masaycha. It doesn't say in the Mishnah that the Shayva is written in the shtar. I didn't assume that. I did not assume that. El Rav Yirmiyah, my time Abaye is saying a very glad Svara fellas, right? The concern that exists by a Shayva, it's Nafshe, right? In other words, he stands everything to gain. Says no, Shayva, the Hachat, the Shayva, the Alma. You know what Yirmiyah is worried about? If you write a shayva over here, you may come to write a shayva by a shtar chayv where there is something to worry about, where there actually was a payment, and you really might go ahead and and the malva might double dip, right? Over here, you talk it, it's not a worry because there was no money, no money, nothing. Mashen came over. So therefore, it's very common. You want, once you do something, it translates unless you're at Lamdin, right? So it's very easy to understand. You're right. Here you're going to write a shayva there. You're not going to shayva. Why not? I'll write a shayva over there also. He loses it. The guy collects the second time. That's the reason. So that's machlokes. Okay. Haima the kosvale, mashma that she had a right to him something. Aval al peh loy. But if she would do it al peh, if she would be Michael and say that she collected 100 al peh, it wouldn't work. Let's see Rashi. Aval al peh, the havile tanoa ba'alma. In other words, this is your ksuba almanas that you're only getting 200. Loy havi tanoa. Then it wouldn't be a good tanoa. The masna masha kosa b'tayrahu. It will be masna masha kosa b'tayra. In other words, the Torah says you get 200. You're saying that what? You're only getting 100. The mashma al peh, it wouldn't work. Guys, this is important. Again, the reason why this works is because it was written. She wrote that she accepted it. But al peh, it will be a tanai. I'm marrying you in tanai that what? That the ksub is only 100. Then it would not work. Then it would not work. That's what the diak is. Time with the cost of vale. She wrote it to him. Aval al peh. If it would be the condition, I'm marrying you. Let's speak it out. I'm marrying you on the manas that your ksub is not 200, it's 100. That would be masla mashakasa b'Torah, and it would not work. Fred Gemara, why would it not work? Davasheb Mammon, who? Right? It's a Davasheb Mammon. Ushaminu Rabbi Yehuda, the Amad Davasheb Mammon, to not Kayim. And we heard according to Rabbi Yehuda, when it comes to Davasheb Mammon, to not Kayim. The Tanya, guys, outside. A man is mechuyev to give his wife three things. She'era, Ksusa, and Anasa, right? Let's go with the traditional pshat, even though we know machloikas and she'er. We saw machloikas. She'er is what? Is clothing, right? Is food. Ksus is clothing. And is tashmish. Good. So now, says Rabbi Yehuda, the ksus part and the food part, you're able to be moichel. You can't be moichel the oina part. That's not a davar shebemamin. But a davar shebemamin, you could be moichel. Fred the Gemara Kasha. Why does Rabbi Yehuda require the ksiva of the receipt? If it's a davar shebemamin, a tanai is you could be masna amasha kasa b'Torah because you're really not. You're saying a davar. I agree that there's such a thing in the Torah, so that you have to give life share. I agree there's such a thing you have to give ksus. But Z is Michael. She's Michael. So that's not masna amasha kasa b'Torah. So says the Gemara. Says the Gemara the following. Why do you have to write it? We heard the Rabbi Yehuda by a davar shebemamin that tanai would be kayim, meaning even verbally without being written. Where do you see that? The Tanya in a brisa. Ha'oimel isha. Someone says to a woman, Hariyam kudeshes li, you are mekudeshes to me. Al menas she'ein lech alai sher ksus v'oina. You're kudeshes to me on condition that you don't have upon me these three things. Harizum mekudeshes v'tnai batul de Reb Meir. Says Reb Meir, you're masla masha makasa b'Torah. Guys, here's the din. Masla masha makasa b'Torah. Tanoi batul u'maisa kayim. Meaning you're married. Don't say that the tie's batul and you're off. No, you're married and you're chayiv in sher ksus v'oina. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, this is what we need. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, b'davar shebemamin, meaning the she'erin kasus part, which are both what? Monetary matters, tanah kayim. So Fred the Gemara Kasha, why do you require the girl to write a shayver on the 100 of the ksuba and not al peh by a davar shebemamin? A tanai should work. You shouldn't have to write it. And for the Gemara, ksav Rabbi Yehuda ksuba de rabbanon, the chacham ma'aseh chizul d'vrayim. A ksuba is the rabbanon, and therefore they make a chizuk of the dreim that a tanai is not going to work. By ksuba, the chachamim, it's the rabbanon. It's not going to, and they're going to make mechazek and say it's not enough tanai. You have to write it out, guys. Again, that nekuda. Again, sometimes a the rabbanon we make stronger than a deraisa. And you say, "Wow, how my high?" And the answer is independently the deraisa has it. It's no need to go ahead and be machazik it. But the rabbanon who want to go ahead and be machazik it, therefore you have to do something. So therefore, that's what they do. They go ahead and they do this. So they're making the chizik. What's the chizik over here? That a verbal tanai in the ksuba is not going to work. You're going to have to write out the shayva for the 100. Good, very good. The chachamim as the chizik devayim. Yosim mishal Torah. Read the Gemara. Is that true? Hari Paris the Rabbanon. Now nichsem iloy that the husband gets the Paris is the Rabbanon, guys. Nichsem iloy is the Rabbanon. But the Gemara is going to prove to you that a tanoi itself would help, even just with talking, and you didn't make a chizuk. Good. What's the case? He got married, and he said to her that I don't have anything to do with Yenachasim and their Paris. The halacha is he doesn't eat the Paris, but if he took those Paris and bought karka and got more Paris, he would eat the Paris. Okay, now. Rabbi Yudah who oichel Paris, he eats the Paris of the Paris, that's selling the Paris, buying the land and producing others. At sheyichtav law, until you write to her, dinu devorim ainli bin chasayich, uperiseim at oilam, right? V'kaimelon my kosev. What does kosev mean? Oimer. Now Paris, guys, is the Rabbanon, and we see that you don't have to write to avoid it, even if you say what. I'm not one part of the Paris, period. In other words, you can verbally say, I don't want the Paris. So what's the difference? Why by the ksuba, which is the Rabbanon, we don't allow the girl to say a Michael the 1,000, the 100, and by Paris you can go ahead in the Rabbanon. And you're going to tell me they chizik the Rabbanon? If they chizik the Rabbanon, then by Paris also, you should have to write it out. It should be enough to go ahead and make a verbal agreement. Amarabaya, l'chol yesh ksuba, v'loy l'chol yesh Paris. Right? Everyone has a ksuba. But it's not common to bring Paris into the marriage. Milsa the shchichi of the Rabban Chizuk, Milsa the shchichi Rabban Chizuk. Okay, very good. You know, we've held serve. We got a great chiluk. What's your kasha? Why do you have to go ahead and write out the shayver? We see that Rabbi Yehuda says that by mamin the davar sheba mamin that tonight helps, so you should be able to buy it's davar sheba mamin, and for the Gemara, that's something that's the Rabbanon, also Rabbanon chizik with Vrayim. For the Gemara, if they make a chizik with Vrayim, why by Paris don't they make that chizik? Why didn't they require a ksiva? Why is it tonight help? Because that's a milsul l'shchich like as a Rabbanon. So therefore they didn't make such a they didn't need a chizik. For the Gemara, the following. Okay, we had this case, guys, earlier. It's a Demai case, but it's in Demai, but we had it in Hari Chamorim, there's wagon drivers. The Shchichi, which is common, and the Rabbanan did not make a chizik. Did none. What's the case? HaChamorim, these wagon drivers, Shenichlis the ear, they come to the city with their produce. V'omad echamehem, Shali Chodesh, mine is new, it's not so good. V'shal Chaveri Yoshem, my friends is dried out, it's really good stuff, right? Shali ain't a metukin, mine is not metukin, it didn't take off meiser. V'shal Chaveri metukin. Ain't them money, guys. Remember, this is Chayish L'Goimlin. They're going to go ahead. Oh, here he's going to be one way, and there's going to be the other way. Remember, he's carrying the kalim with him. You see that he's got the scales with him. Chayish L'Goimlin, right? Rabbi Yehuda, I'm in Nemonim. Rabbi Yehuda says over here the Nemon. Now, this is the Mai, right? This is the Mai. That the Osik Chizuk. So why is he believed? Like Rabbi Yehuda, if Osik Chizuk, they should not be believed. They shouldn't be believed. Amarvaya. Vadai did the Vrayim of the Rabbanan Chizuk. When it's a Vadai, such as what as a Ksuba, then the Chachamim make a Chizuk the Vrayim. Suffolk, but the Mai, which is only a Suffolk, Roy V'Amaratzim, go ahead and take up Trumas Amaisa, so it's a Suffolk the Vrayim Loyov the Rabbanan Chizuk. So therefore, they want to make a Chizuk. So we held true this chilik between why do you have to verbally go ahead and verbally is not enough by what? By a Ksuba. Why do you have to write it out because of Asa Chizuk the Vrayim? Rabbi says no. Demai is different. By Demai, we're maker by Demai. Rashi says by Demai Akilim Mishar Suffolk to the Vrayim. It's even more. If I feel a Suffolk less, it's not even a Suffolk. The Roiv Amaretz Ma'asim Haim. It's not even a Suffolk. It's even go after Roiv. It's so therefore there's no question. So in answer to the question, does Rabbi Yehuda say hold of a writing a shayver? Absolutely, right. Absolutely, if he holds the writing of Shaivas, so why over here does why over here? But why over here did no Rabbi was to that no that we said that what that was a different that Rabbi said it's different over here that the onus is upon this guy to watch it. After all, there was no money given over, right? So therefore, what about a Tanai helping? Even it's master by a dove mammon, you can master mashakos of a Torah. So why can't you make the Tanai Kesuba? Why isn't it necessary to write it? Because since the Kesuba is the Rabbana, they want to make a chizik, right? We asked on that. We asked on that from we asked them that from Paris. Excuse me, we asked them that from Chamorim, from Paris. We said Paris is a shchiach, right? That even though it's the Rabbana, you have to make a chizik. And the Mai is even less than that. It's either a suffix, or it's even not, according to Rabbi, it's not even a suffix, it's a right. Okay, the last statement of the Mishnah was Reb Meir. What did Reb Meir say? No. Anyone kol apoiches, anyone who gives less than 2 or 1, is, you know what he said Lashon was? Well, what was the Lashon? He said, he doesn't say ki'ilu. It says Yaboil bilas nus. That's this Lashon. Harezu bilas nus. It's a statement. It's a bilas of nus. So let's understand that. Let's understand. What do you mean it's a bilas nus? Just because you don't have a contract there, right? What's going on? So it says the Gemara. Kol apoiches afilu bitana, right? Mashma afilu bitana. It's mashma kol apoiches, right? It's mashma that kol apoiches, that anyone who goes ahead and gives less than 200, right? And so the Lashon of the Gemara, it doesn't say any besula that doesn't have Messiah Mezuz, right? It says kol apoiches. Anyone, it doesn't say any, you could have said the following: any besula that doesn't have 200 is a bilas nus. It doesn't say that. It says anyone who's poiches, anyone who goes ahead and retracts, right? Something. So what's the chiddush over here? Afilu b'tanoi. In other words, even he just makes a tanoi, he's masna to go ahead and give less. It's bilas nus. Even if he didn't give less, but he's masna to give less, right? He says he's going to give less. Alma, Kesava, tanoi bottle. That we see that what the tanoi is bottle, and the kesuv is what is 200. The kivin the Omar la less leich elamana. Since what did he tell her, guys? He told her, you know what? I'm giving you less. What's the halacha? She doesn't get less. But when she's with him, she's a lamnin? She doesn't know that, right? So what does she think? Elamana. She's not samich das on the ksuba, because she thinks the tanai is kayan. She thinks she's getting less than 2. But havilu bilas nus, because she's having bia shloy on the smach of the ksuba. You know, you're getting married. You have this ksuba. I'm getting married in the smach, and she thinks she's getting less, and she's really giving more. So now, you see that the tanai is batal. The Omar Kola Masla Mashakos B'Torah Tanai Batal Habid the Rabbanon Tanai Kayim. The Mashma Tanai is Kayim that she's getting less. And Gemara, you have to say Ksav Rameya Ksuba Deraisa. You have to say Rameya's Ksuba Deraisa. In other words, how do you accomplish this being a bilas nus, guys? In other words, she's getting married on a false premise, guys. She's having beer on a false premise. She thinks she's having beer on 100, and it's really having beer on 200, right? So therefore, she's having beer on a false premise. The Gemara. It's not a false premise. Rabbi says that what if it's the Rabbanon, you could go ahead and make it less. And if the Gemara heals, because it was the Raisa, it's B'maflekas, right? Heals Moyer Yomar Kimor Abasulis, right? You know, he'd hold it's the Raisa. Since it goes to the Raisa, then it would be a bilas nus. Tanya, Reb Meir Oimer, Kol Apoiches the Besulim Masayim Lamana Mimana, right? Even right, you write a Shoiver Harizu bilas nus, and there in the Tayas bottle it's 200. Rabbi Yossi says no. Rabbi Yossi says Rishoy. Rabbi Yossi says, in fact, you could. Rabbi Yehuda Oimer, Rotzak Kaiseves L'Bsula Shtash L'Masayim, well, he Kaiseves Lei Skabalti Mimcha Mana, or Mana. He Kaiseves Skabalti Mimcha Chayshel. Okay, so now you have guys 3 sheetas now, guys 3 sheetas now. But the Brisa brought it in reverse order, and we added one. In our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda spoke first, and then Rabbi spoke last. In the Brisa, Rabbi is speaking first. We're introducing Rabbi Yossi. And now Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so what do we have? Let's go to the 3 sheetas. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir, anything less than 200, bilas nus. Says Rabbi Yossi, you can go ahead and shortchange her. Says Rabbi Yehuda, you also could shortchange her. What's the difference between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda? Whether you have to write it out to shortchange her. Look at Rashi, guys. Look at Rashi. Says Rashi, Rabbi Yossi Omer Rishoi, va'afilu al penami tanoi kayim. And even if you don't write it out, even if it's al peh, the Tanai is fulfilled to give less than 200. The Yossi Rabbi Yehuda lemeimar, and Rabbi Yehuda comes to add on Rabbi Yossi's words, Rishoi Rabbi Yossi miu al peh tanoi bato. The Tanai will be bato kidar minu lel, like we said before. Why? Therefore, you have to write out the shiver. If you want to go ahead, what and be Michael, go ahead. Rashi says it again, write over shiver. So now we're getting back to our three sheetahs. Now we're doing analysis instead of dealing with the shiver part. Okay, so you have three things. Good, the three sheetahs. Remeya, anything less than 200 bilas nus. Why is it bilas nus? Because you're not samech das. The b is on the wrong ksuba. According to Rabbi Yossi, a big chiddush you could Tanai batal afilu be'amira, and Rabbi Yehuda no Tanai is batal, but you have to write it out.
This didn't take place where you made the suggestion and she wrote a shover, or before she got married. Did he surprised her with this afterward?
What?
She got the ksuba in her hand.
No, according to so it doesn't make a difference. There's no mechila. Whatever she does, she's she thinks she's getting 100.
Even if this was discussed,
Right. Even what is discussed, she thinks she's getting 100. So she's soimich on this ksuba. This ksuba is not a good ksuba. It's not a ksuba. That's what you did do. According to you did do it, right? What's the din? I'll tell you Maisa. Listen to a Maisa. Talk about ksuba. Maisa Shahaya, crazy Maisa. It's a guy in yeshiva. I won't say his name. It's not important. But he got married to he was from Cleveland, Ohio, and he was marrying a Rosh Koil and Bnei Brak's daughter. So it was a really mixed marriage. It's really two cultures coming together, and the wedding was in Bnei Brak. So when we learn, you all got married, there was a ksuba, there was writing. Half the time you were doing other things, thinking that whatever you were thinking, you weren't thinking about the ksuba. None. But any of you thinking about when you're giving away 200 zuz, I don't think so. Tanoim, you don't think about Tanoim. Anyway, this Reish Kailo starts writing stuff into the ksuba. And the guy from Cleveland's father says, what's going on over here? He doesn't want any part of this. And the Rashiva, my Rabbi, was there, and he says, Zogzichnes, don't worry about it. I'll schreiben, let him schreiben. Write. And they're writing, and this guy's all nervous and everything. Anyway, Rashiva goes ahead, they write up the star, they sign everything. So Rashiva starts reading Ksuba, puzzle. Rashiva rips up the Ksuba, pulls out Ksuba, and tells the guy very back, no schreib. Halt by the chuppah, schreib.
yeah.
You weren't pulling anything over. Rashiva, he ripped. I saw he rips it up, puzzle, rips up the Ksuba, pulls out Ksuba, tells the guy, you want to get married? You schreib now. Boom. So I'm saying that people do pull over the shtick. They do this. I mean, you wouldn't think that, but they do. Ksuba is about $10,000. I just somebody got divorced. He said he had to pay the ksuba. I said about 10,000. He goes, yeah, it was 10,000. 10,000. What? No. Well, you're a Tosefes. Right. Because the prospect pocket. Okay. Anyway. So let's see the Gemara Geschmack, guys. Okay. So Nachamal. Tanya, Reb Meir Omer, Kol HaPoiches LeBesulim Messiahim U'Lamon Mamona Harizu Bilas Nus. Reb Yossi Omer Rishoi. Reb Yehuda Omer. Reb Yehuda is going to agree with Reb Yossi, but he's requiring to be written. What's the Kosev LeBesula Shtar Shel Messiahim? V'Hoya Kesuvos Lo Yiskabalti Mimcha. I receive from you Mana U'Lamona, and for an Almona money, you write a Mana, 100. V'Hi Kesuvos Lo Yiskabalti Mimcha Chamisha. This Fred Gemara V'Sav Reb Yossi Rishoi. Reb Yossi hold that you have reshus to go ahead and be Michael. Or I'll ask you a stira. Ein oisen ksubas isha metaltlin if they tikkun oilam. You can't make a ksubas isha out of metaltlin because of what? Tikkun oilam, says Rashi. Shemiyav yavaidu or yivschu demeyem. Either because it'll get lost or it'll go down in value. Land keeps its price much better. You can't go ahead and write because tikkun oilam. You can't go ahead and write That's what Rabbi Yossi says. Amar Rabbi Yossi. Okay, now Rabbi Yossi is talking. The kind of comment said what he said. Rabbi Yossi, you want to know what tikkun olam is? But ain't ketsuvim, right? It's not a set price. The price is not set; it fluctuates. Upaychsin. So that's the tikkun olam that it goes up and down. Fred the Gemara, what just happened? Tanakami Nami ain't oisin kama. They both agreed ain't oisin because the tikkun olam. What's Rabbi Yossi adding on to the Tanakama? And again, we're leading up to a question that Rabbi Yossi said you could be Michael. Good. Elolav hachi kamar. When do we say that you can't write on metaltalin b'shaloi kibul achrayis? When you're not mekabel achrayis. In other words, if you're not mekabel achrayis, if it gets lost. If it gets lost, it's your loss. But if you're mekabel achrayis, that if it gets lost, then it's okay. Then you will be able to write a ksuba on metaltalin because you have the security of insurance. If it gets lost, it'll be made up. Aval kibul of achrayis oisin. For us, Rabbi Yossi, 1 second. Why could you make your ksuba of metaltalin even if you take achrayas for its security? Even if it's there, it's no guarantee it's going to hold its worth. In other words, there's two things to be concerned about: it not being in the world, or it being in the world not holding its value. So you dealt with the problem of what it being in the world. You didn't deal with that problem. Okay. The bottom line is, you see that what Rabbi Yossi says you can't be Michael. Rabbi Yossi says that what you want it to be 200. You can't use metaltalin. Uma Hossam, the Dilma Pachse, Chayish, Rabbi Yossi, over there where what? You're concerned, perhaps it will go down in price, right? We are concerned, and we don't let you write metaltalin. Hacha, the Vadai Pachse, where you're Michael, that's 100. Vadai, like Kol Shekain. What's your Tzushtel? Hossam over there, Lo Yoda the Tachel, Hada Yoda the Kamachla. Over there, she doesn't know, right? The Tachel. She doesn't know anything. That should be Michael. It's change. Hachiyada. She knows exactly what it is. The kamachwa. Okay, and if she was Michael, so it's in other words, over there she doesn't know any lumdis over there. She knows she has something. Does she know that it's going to go down in value, up in value? She doesn't know anything. Over here, Mashenkin over here, where clearly she knows that she's accepting it, says Rabbi Yossi, there you could accept it if you accept it from the start.
Again, I'm still stuck there. I'm sorry. I'm still stuck there.
Rabbi Yossi says you don't have to write anything. You're still stuck on Rabbi Meir's shita. Forget the shita. Says Rabbi Meir, listen, Rabbi Yossi is saying the biggest kula. Afilu, if she verbalizes and says, I'm moichel my ksuba. Boom. Right, the Gemara. Moichel ksuba. Rabbi Yossi himself says you can't make ksuba out of a taltalin. Now you understand the kasha. You're stuck on Rabbi Meir. Forget Meir. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi. Now, Achdei de Rami Bar Chama, having a Sibul Rab Avya. So the sister Rami Bar Chama was married to Rav Avya. Irkes Ksuba, so she lost the Ksuba. Asal Kamei the Rabbi Yosef. She came in front of Rabbi Yosef. Amalu Hachiyam Rabbi Yehuda Meshmul Zu Div Reb Meir. These are the words of Reb Meir who said that what anyone who gives less than 200, it's a bila snus, and therefore what you can't live together. Look at top Rashi. Zu Div Reb Meir Damal El Kol HaPoichas LeBesulim Mesayim Vafilu B'Tanoi Tanai Botol Korle bila snus Mishum Lo Samcha Daita V'Hachanami Reb Meir. Who the asal lishais isha of the shtar ksuba? It's us to stay together. Vafilu islay the leimifsida b'hachi the gabia b'tanai bezdin mia loy samcha daita dama kitavana le'amar particha. In other words, even over here where you didn't go ahead and minimize the shtar, and she knows that what the guy she can't produce the shtar. He can say particha. So what's going to happen? In other words, the same reason that would make it a bilas nus when you go down in price would exist over here as well. Because she's not summit that watch, she'll be able to collect, because she'll say it's lost. It's kashmak, guys. In other words, it's the same svara. So now, go back in the Gemara now. So Asla Kamei Rabbi Yosef, Amalu Hachiyam Rabbi Yehuda, Amashmul Zudu Rabbi Meir. We got to read between the lines. That's the concern that you won't be able to collect ksuba, now you're not summit that's the words of Rabbi Meir. A person can live with his wife, 2 or 3 years, but like ksuba. You could, it's so therefore don't worry. Because they Roisav. The halacha is like Reb Meir in his gezeris. We have a rule in Shas. Machlokes Reb Yehuda, Reb Meir, halacha like Reb Yehuda. So over here, but we have in the gezerah of Meir's gezerah, then the halacha like Reb Meir. So he said, if that's the case, he'll custom. Go ahead, and write a ksuba. Go ahead, and write a ksuba. And that's why Bisman is there. Don't have that ksuba hanging on the wall. You got to tell your wife to hide it. Have a good one.